Listen, coming on here and saying that something ridiculous happened in Chainsaw Man is so passe. It's old hat. Because at this point, the most ridiculous thing I can talk about from a most recent Chainsaw Man chapter is that nothing ridiculous happened. It's an absurd manga filled with nonsense plot lines, and it's my favorite thing in existence. But even amongst the insanely bizarre events that have encapsulated the majority of Part 2 of Chainsaw Man, Chapter 189 stands out as a true blue champion. See, because sure, in the last couple of chapters, we've seen Denji turn a devil tooth into an axe, proceed to chop open human trees and then eat their guts. We've seen the Statue of Liberty turn into a gigantic skeletal beast with a gun that fires the fingers of every single National Pistol Association member in America across the ocean into Japan at hypersonic speeds. And we've seen the War Devil equip the Gun and Tank Devil, their two children devils, as gauntlets to replace their two sliced off arms. Any moment taken from Part 2 of Chainsaw Man without context is the most absurd thing you've ever heard said out loud. But even with that understanding that things are weird in Chainsaw Man, Chapter 189 is an odd one. Because in this chapter, the least likely team up of all time has apparently come together, as Yoshida, Mifune, Asa, Yoru, and Denji are apparently all now working together to defeat the Aging Devil. And the entire plan hinges on crawling into Denji's mouth, because apparently Denji has the ability to unhinge his jaw like an anaconda, and it's horrific to look at. However, if you can stifle back the throw up as you try to read this chapter, you'll realize that this unlikely team up has swung the tide of the battle towards Team Denji, and that the likelihood that Yoru and Yoshida might be able to climb out of the Black Chainsaw's mouth to re-enter into the world and escape the Aging Devil's realm is becoming infinitely more possible by the moment. But what does this mean for Denji, who can't climb through his own mouth? What does it mean for the Black Chainsaw Man, who still doesn't have a way to defeat the Aging Devil? And does any iteration of the Octopus Devil, even in its strongest possible form, truly stand a chance against a Primal Devil? Well, today we're going to be answering all those questions and a whole lot more, because today we're talking Chapter 189 of Chainsaw Man Explained. But before we get to explaining anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So before we dive into what happened in Chapter 189 and what it could mean for the future of Chainsaw Man, let's do a little quick recap on how we got to Chapter 189 in the first place. The last time we talked about Chainsaw Man was after Chapter 187. Denji was telling Pochita to puke up whatever Pochita was able to in order to help them escape the Aging Devil's realm. In that video, we hypothesized that maybe Pochita would puke up something like the Nuclear Weapons Devil, or the section of the War Devil that it swallowed years ago to make Yoru strong enough to punch through the Aging Devil's realm. However, it appears as though, as we did hypothesize, that Pochita doesn't have the ability to puke up things that it ate a long time ago, which is why Pochita's only puked up things like the Bitterness Devil, the Snow Devil, and now Yoshida. See, we never saw Yoshida get eaten by the Chainsaw Man, but we did see Yoshida go into combat against the Chainsaw Man, and then we didn't see him after. So Chapter 188 revealed to us that apparently Yoshida was eaten by Pochita. Now that does bring up a rather interesting question as to whether or not Yoshida was forgotten by everyone after being consumed by Chainsaw Man, or if that erasure ability only applies to devils, but considering the fact that he was thrown up, I guess we'll never know the answer. Anyways, Yoshida, after being regurgitated from Denji's mouth like a crocodile that tried to eat an entire deer in a couple of bites, began to speculate with Denji and Yoru about how they could possibly break out of the Aging Devil's realm. Now Yoshida comes to the realization that if the Aging Devil is communicative, then there's a fair chance that the Public Safety Division is working with the Aging Devil to defeat the Chainsaw Devil. However, when Denji reveals to Yoshida that the Aging Devil is trying to be eaten by the Chainsaw Devil in as many bites as possible because every bite correlates to deaths of children around Japan, Denji screams at Yoshida and says that the Aging Devil is a pervert. As having this opinion and also shoving his mouth full of as many tree human guts as possible clearly puts Denji on the anti-Aging Devil side, Yoshida realizes, as a public safety officer, he is most likely on the pro-Aging Devil side. However, she decides to put all that to the side, as Yoshida needs to focus on simply how to get out of the Aging Devil's realm. And in order to make sure that he has the best possible chance to break out of the Aging Devil's realm, Yoshida also goes out of the way to apologize to Asa for cutting off her arm, something that she and Yoru are still very upset about, even though they've since regrown them. Now, for those of you who don't remember how Yoshida ended up cutting off Asa's arm, when the Public Safety Division finally started to make its move against the Chainsaw Man Church, they also hunted down and found found the address of Asa. And therefore, when Asa realized that the Public Safety Division was after her, like they were after Denji and the rest of the Chainsaw Man Church, she turned her apartment 606, into a sword and tried to rush the public safety officers that were apparently outside her door. However, even though this weapon should have been incredibly powerful because Asa loves her apartment, Yoshida won in the clash of battles and ended up cutting off Asa's arm. Now mind you, this is before Asa got her other arm cut off by the Chainsaw Man. But because Asa is still upset about having her arm cut off by Yoshida, Yoshida apologizes to her, and boom, we have an inside the aging realm trio of power. Well, not before Yoru tries to clock Yoshida, but Yoshida blocks her attack and takes her hand and shakes it. And thus, after the three of them have this semi-non-consensual handshake, and all express to each other how each and every single one of them makes each other sick physically, Yoshida asks Denji the all-important question. Denji, your stomach is still connected to Chainsaw Man in the real world. So, can I shove my entire arm in your mouth? And thus that brings us to the opening of chapter 189, where we see in the real world through Chainsaw Man's open mouth that Yoshida's hand is extending. And in this moment, Yoshida says, grab. And it's this point that we see the octopus devil's tentacle extend from Yoshida's hand and try to grab onto a bar in the real world. But heavy emphasis on try, and we'll get into why in a second. Before we see how this endeavor goes in the real world, we cut back to the Aging Devil's realm where Yoshida has beyond his elbow thrusted into Denji's mouth. And listen, I don't want to brag, but if you can fit my bicep in your mouth, hit me up. Now, while Yoshida is deeper in Denji than any man has ever been in any other man, he says, which I don't know, not the choice of words I would go with, is because in his hand is the severed end of the tentacle that tried to reach a pole in the real world. And thus Yoshida realizes that this plan may not work. Even if they were to return to the real world, they may just get killed on their way out of Chainsaw Man's mouth. However, the Aging Devil is perplexed by this attempt of escape, as it realizes that Yoshida, Denji, and Yoru are trying to force their way back into the real world through their connection to the Chainsaw Man. By the way, I get that Denji is like some kind of superhuman when it comes to pain and stamina and durability, but a lot of that ability is tied to Pochita, and him and Pochita are very clearly separated right now. So as to how Denji is currently unhinging his jaw as just like a regular human to fit an entire arm in his mouth, I don't have answers. Like, yes, I get that his stomach is still connected to Pochita in the real world, but that doesn't mean that his jaw is flexible enough to puke up Yoshida. Now, to this point that the Aging Devil Realm Power Trio decides to change their tactic. Instead of reaching Yoshida's hands through and trying to have an octopus tentacle grab onto something so he can pull himself out, Yoru takes her turn at fisting Denji and shoves her hand into Denji's mouth and out of Chainsaw Man's mouth and uses a bang. However, because she's just sticking her arm in somebody's mouth and then saying bang, she has no idea whether she's hit the Aging Devil or not. And so, in one of the least intimate situations of penetration I've ever seen in anime or manga, to the literal horror of the guy who spent the last 80 years in this Aging Devil's dimension, Yoru climbs halfway into Denji's mouth. We're talking up to her waist. And whatever you're envisioning, it's worse. However, as Yoru tries to wriggle her way either through Denji's mouth or out Chainsaw Man's mouth, who, mind you, not a mouth that I don't have to wriggle my way through. Have you seen those teeth? Before she's able to get her arms free, the Aging Devil responds to her newfound entry into the battle and points a finger at her forehead and says, bang. However, fortunately, we're fighting the Aging Devil and not the Control Devil, because while this absolutely could have been the oh my god, fourth love of Denji's life we had to watch get horrifically murdered. I mean, right? Reze, Power, Makima, you could even throw Naota in there and then this. And then like only her legs would be stuck in Denji's mouth. That, I understand that Denji's a tough kid, but that I feel like could push him over the edge. But fortunately for Yoru, this bang isn't tied to a gun devil, because when Makima was able to use a bang that was able to blow away pieces of Denji and a lot of power, that's because she was the Control Devil and she could use the devil abilities of devils she believed were lesser than her. The Aging Devil, while the Primal Devil doesn't have access to those abilities. The Aging Devil, at least so far as we've seen up until this point, only has aging specific abilities. We've seen it disintegrate one of the Statue of Liberty bullet fingers. We saw it cast Asa and Denji down into the Aging Devil realm, and we've seen it regenerate basically endlessly. So it can't use bang, and therefore it using bang in this moment is kind of just a way to taunt Yoru, as instead of blowing the top half of her torso off her bottom half, instead the Aging Devil just makes Yoru, or I guess more so Asa, really old. And therefore, while reeling in horror, Yoru rips herself out of the real world and back into the Aging Devil's realm, where upon returning to, she returns back to her usual age, as she asks Yoshida and Denji if she's still beautiful, to which they both say say yes, which is kind of nice. Now this makes Yoru very upset as she goes, "Damn you aging, marring my beauty, if even only for an instant." And it's at this point that it's reconfirmed to us that devil powers do not work in the aging devil's realm. And therefore, since Yoru and Aso were artificially aged by the aging devil through a devil ability, once they returned to the aging devil realm where devil abilities don't work and are therefore no longer applied, she went back to her standard age. You know, the age that if you aren't, the Asmongols of the world will go, "Ugh! Why don't you look like a child?" Because according to them, once you hit like 25 as a woman, you're an old hag. But sure, they get to look like the human version of 5,000 rats in a trench coat. Those are the people that should have opinions on the attractiveness of others. Anyways, Asmongold hate withstanding, Chainsaw Man in the real world, now that it doesn't have anybody trying to claw out of its mouth, takes this opportunity to cut off the head of the aging devil for like the 4th time. However, because the aging devil is able to take the organs of literally any and all public safety officer, in order to regenerate itself, this time around, it takes the large intestine of all of the public safety officers that are in the room with it right now. And considering the fact that just a couple of minutes ago, it took the livers of all of those same people, none of them were doing great to begin with, as all of them had begun to cough up blood, because you do really need your liver. And you also really need your large intestine, so any and everybody who's involved in this contract with the aging devil is probably gonna die. Now, it's this point that the apparently multiple personalities of the aging devil let the Chainsaw Man know that hostility is only gonna add to the body count, presumably referring to the fact that every single time that the aging devil is injured, it has to take organs from other people to heal itself. And it therefore ensures the Chainsaw Man, Denji, Yoru, and even Yoshida that this fight is futile. And therefore the aging devil tells Chainsaw Man, and maybe Denji, that you must be getting sick of the taste of human flesh by now. They say my flesh tastes like lotus root, and I don't know who knows that. Why has the primal devil been letting other people munch on it? But as somebody whose favorite thing at Hot Pot is lotus root and spam, yeah, that might have gotten me. Oh, spam's gross. Grow up. It's delicious. In fact, if you don't like spam, racist. I said it. It's Hawaiian culture erasure. How dare you? Anyways, while the aging devil is quite literally pouring salt on itself to try and lure the Chainsaw Man into taking a couple of spicy noms, it looks over at Mifune. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Mifune is the public safety officer who lured Denji into a karaoke place under the guise of getting it on and then proceeded to sing a song that actually doesn't come out for like 8 or so years in the Chainsaw Man universe. Because this story takes place in something like 1999 and the song doesn't come out until like 2008. Well, Denji had to fight off like 50 people who were in a line to apparently kill him. Anyways, Mifune, who's dying on the ground because she no longer has her large intestine or liver, in a sense, kind of astrally projects herself into a standing and healthy consciousness. Like in this scene, we see two Mifune, the Mifune dying on the ground and the Mifune standing up who's staring down at the Mifune dying on the ground. Now, it appears as though, for some reason, the aging devil is able to see this projection of a healthy Mifune who's supposed to represent Mifune's consciousness. And this honestly could be because of Mifune's contract with the aging devil. Like the aging devil is able to see her thoughts in a way. Anyways, this healthy version of Mifune looks down at her dying body and says, "Hardy, aren't I? I'm still alive, and I promised myself in my dying moments I would side with the side that I believed was going to come out victorious." And so she looks down at herself dying on the ground and says, "Well, I'll leave it to you." To which the version of her dying on the ground says, "Okay." She then, through agonizing breaths, says, "Yoshida senpai, I give you my heart." To which Yoshida just matter-of-factly says, "Thanks." Yeah, the girl you trained in the public safety division just literally sacrificed her life and gave you her heart so you could give it to your octopus devil to break out of the aging devil realm, and all you have is thanks? Sometimes I wonder if Tatsuki Fujimoto just writes sociopaths or is unable to write characters with any feelings because he himself is a sociopath. Like, is Denji truly persevering through unimaginable odds, or does Tatsuki Fujimoto just have no idea to write a character who's hurting emotionally? Now, it's this point that Mifune, who is now in Denji's mouth for a second time, so nice he hit it twice, says, "Octopus, I'll let you have Mifune's heart." And as we all know, in contracts with devils, the more you give over, the stronger the devil becomes. In classic Howl's Moving Castle fashion, the strongest thing you can give over is a heart. Well, actually, I guess not the strongest thing you can give over. Himeno gave her entire body. But if you're giving up your life for a boost in devil power, yeah, you're gonna get a pretty big surge. And while what we saw from the Ghost Devil when Himeno gave over her entire body was anything but impressive, what we get from the Octopus Devil is most definitely impressive. Because while Yoshida is telling the Octopus Devil to swallow, we pan out in a panel that shows this beautiful Japanese mansion residing in the mountains where all of this is going down, just for the next page to show us a gigantic version of Liara to to Sony bursting through the roof of this mansion. For the 4 people that got that Mass Effect reference, I love you. But for the other couple thousand or so people who don't get that Mass Effect reference, the Octopus Devil not only appears to be absolutely massive, but also appears to have a woman's face, and its hair and kind of sideburns are tentacles. Now, some of you are probably saying, oh, Yoshida is going to be able to ride this Octopus Devil outside of the Agent Devil realm. The problem with Yoshida trying to use the Octopus Devil to break out of the Agent Devil's realm before is that the Agent Devil was able to cut that tentacle. But this is surely too many tentacles to cut, right? Well, kind of. If you are going through with that logic that Yoshida's using this surge in power to the Octopus Devil to break out of the Agent Devil realm, what you're ignoring is the fact that Yoshida has to call out what he wants the Octopus Devil to do before it does it. Very noticeably, in the beginning of this chapter, Yoshida had to say grab when using the first tentacle he tried to use to break out of the Agent Devil's realm, so the Octopus Devil would grab something in the real world. And therefore, after sacrificing Mifune's heart to the Octopus Devil, Yoshida says swallow, meaning what Yoshida was directing the Octopus Devil to do in this moment was to swallow the Aging Devil. But why? Why would Yoshida tell the Octopus Devil to swallow the Aging Devil? Well, there's really 2 reasons. The first could be to delay the Aging Devil. If the Aging Devil gets caught up inside the mouth of the Octopus Devil, then Yoshida and Yoru would be able to climb through Denji's mouth back into the real world to battle alongside Chainsaw Man against the Aging Devil. The second, and at least to me, more likely possibility, could be that Yoshida is trying to swallow the Aging Devil to be able to pull the Aging Devil into its own realm. But why? Why would Yoshida want to pull the Aging Devil into its own realm, a subspace it controls? Well, because once again in this chapter, it was established that devil powers do not work in this realm. We don't know as to whether or not the Aging Devil's powers would also work in this pocket dimension. However, in the hypothetical circumstance where they don't, 1, the Aging Devil wouldn't be able to use any of its aging-based abilities against the power trio, and 2, if Denji were to consume the Aging Devil in this realm, not only would the Aging Devil go to the Chainsaw Man's stomach, erasing the Aging Devil as a concept, but also the contract that the Aging Devil made with the Public Safety Division that said for every bite of the Aging Devil the Chainsaw Man make would lead to deaths of children in Japan would most likely become null and void. 1, because Denji would be doing the biting, and 2, because devil powers do not work. And I think Yoru being aged in the real world and reverse aged once she gets back to the Aging Devil's dimension is supposed to show us that when the Aging Devil is pulled into this dimension, its abilities will not work. Which means, more likely than not, as insane as this sounds, if Yoshida is successful in swallowing the Aging Devil and pulling it into its own dimension, that the next chapter could literally just feature Denji, Yoru, and Yoshida beating the Aging Devil to death. Once the Aging Devil is killed and then swallowed by Denji and therefore eradicated as a concept, its dimension will cease to exist. See, because as it currently stands, Denji has no way to break out of the Aging Devil's dimension. He can't climb through his own mouth. But then again, based off what I saw his jaw do this chapter, maybe he could. And while there is technically a possibility that the combination of Yoshida, Yoru, and the Chainsaw Man would be able to, in the real world, inflict enough damage upon the Aging Devil that he would no longer have anything else to use to heal his body, for some reason, I just believe that the stage has been set for the Aging Devil being pulled into its own dimension. But who knows? I could be reading the wrong tea leaves. What do you guys think the future of Chainsaw Man is going to look like? Do you think this battle against the Aging Devil is going to take place in the real world or the Aging Devil dimension? Let me know in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. It's the windiest day in LA's history, which means I'm either about to go on the fastest or the slowest run of my life.